Hello Elise and Nina. I figured I'd make a video so you can see easier what I mean when I'm talking about charts. Each one of these candles represents one day of trading action. This down here is called the tail, and this is the low of the day. The wick is the high of the day, and the body of the candle is the open and close. So for a red candle, it opened at the top and closed at the bottom, and for a white candle, it opened here and closed up there. So for an example, let's say this day we opened at the top of the red body, the low of day was down here, the high of day was up here, and the close was right here. So it's just an easier way to, I can look at this chart and instantly know pretty much the action that's been going on. Like Thursday there was a brutal sell-off, and then, or actually this is Wednesday, and then on Thursday it gapped open way up, closed at 30 down here and opened up in the 31s. Hit all the way up to 33s, and then there was a bunch of profit taking as people sold off, and it closed right down here. So it's just a quick way to, get a brief flash of what the action was. In terms of the chart, you can see I assume this was earnings. There was a big gap down from 34 all the way down to 29 and a half-ish, and since then it's had a nice uptrend. You can see it's setting in higher lows, even though here there was another big gap down, but it recovered pretty quickly. What these lines are, these colored lines, are moving average resistance, which is just the average closing price. There's a 50-day, the 100-day, the 200-day, and it's just the average. When the moving average line is above the stock price, it's resistance, and when it's below it, it's support. So for example, this is the 50-day moving average, this blue line, and you can see that after this bounce, it hit it, couldn't close above it, and then again it went above it, but it couldn't close above it. What's most important with stocks is where they close, because that's the number that's factored into the moving average. So it kept getting knocked down by the 50-day moving average. You can see unable to close above it, and this big gap up, it was pretty significant because now it is closing above it, and this line is now support. The 50-day moving average is 31.83. In terms of going forward, if you want to look at a longer term chart or a longer term outlook, you look at the weekly chart, which is the same thing as the daily, except each candle now represents 1 week worth of trading. You can see it was just from September to October, every week was just red, 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 red. And it got pretty oversold, and it's bounced nicely, higher lows being formed. But one thing I'm looking at is on the weekly chart, you got the 200-day moving average, 200-week moving average, which is pretty strong resistance because it's the more days you factor into the moving average, the stronger support or resistance it is. So say, the 200-day moving average is going to be stronger resistance here than the 50-day moving average, just because this is a longer term trend of closes factored into it. So I'm seeing there's resistance here. You got the 200-day moving average, the 20-day moving average, the 100-day moving average. Those are all resistance between 34 and 35. And also going back and looking at the daily we were just looking at, the daily chart, you've also got the 200-day daily moving and the 100-day. Those are both resistance as well in the 34 to 35 range. So personally, if I were going to go long here, I wouldn't want to get in until it proves to me that it has the strength to close above these levels and turn them into support. And I only am saying that just because it's pretty strong resistance on both the weekly and the daily chart. So if it's able to close above these levels, sure, you miss out on $3 worth of movement, and I guess that is pretty significant, 10%, but it lowers your risk reward. There's going to be a lot less risk if you know that the price is strong enough to turn those resistances into supports. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on it and do what you think, but I'm sure there's other retailers that are above their 200-day moving average right now, which would be a much better sign of strength going forward. I'll give your other stock you mentioned a check, and I'll make another video for that.